I think eventually the consumers have to be smart about it. Even if there will be a standard, companies will understand how to bypass it and still, try to give outrageous stories that are not really true to their readers. The reader has to be smart and aware of what they're reading.
This is Velocitize Talks, and I'm Eric Jones. I'm here with Shachar Orren.
Very good pronunciation of my name.
Who's the chief storyteller at Playbuzz. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Playbuzz and what you do there.
Sure. So Playbuzz is a storytelling platform. That's the baseline. We're used by two main audiences, which are publishers and brands who want to tell stories to their audience that are not just text and images, but are interactive and actually engage them. And we work on the publisher side with over 16,000 publishers, some of the biggest publishers in the world like HuffPost, ABC, CBS, Sky News, many others across different verticals. On the brand side, we work with big brands like Unilever, Ford, Netflix have done a few campaigns with us, Shell, Amex. But what's common to all of them is they want to create content that fits the way that people consume content today, rather than give them stories that are very old school and not really engaging them or creating a dialogue with them.
I wanted to dive right in and, in the wake of Cambridge Analytica and their shuttering, are users, do you find that users are becoming more skeptical about content? How are you thinking about building engagement these days?
I think users are always skeptical about content. That's something that you have to assume, is that they're not going to eat up everything you give to them. Specifically interactive content, I don't feel like there's been a shift since the Cambridge Analytica scandal, because as users are skeptical, they're also very smart and they know to identify when they're being served great content that's meant to help them engage with news stories. And when they're being served something that requires a Facebook login and is asking for, can you just give me all of your information? It's very, very different experiences. So I think interactivity is not some novelty that users will be skeptical about and will be tired of, or at least this is how we see it at Playbuzz. It's something that's core to the way that people want to consume content these days. And this is where Playbuzz started. This is why the company, came about and is doing what we're doing, is because we feel that content in its non-interactive version, where it's just paragraphs of text, you're kind of zombie scrolling through, is not the way that people want to consume content these days. People are now consuming content on their mobile devices. They're engaging with everything on the screen. They're swiping, they're clicking, they're moving, they're messaging. And there's no reason that the stories that they're being told are going to be any different. So interactivity is something that is necessary for today's audience to really consume content and really engage with it and really, get a message that they're being sent and have this experience be meaningful rather than just skimming. So it's not something that we see, and again, Playbuzz works with over 16,000 publishers that are using our platform and serving interactive content to their audience every day, and we're not seeing any changes or, any skepticism around the interactivity. So I don't think that's going to change, or that, that scandal will have any impact on that, because content is going to become more and more interactive, and it's not, people sometimes connect interactivity with quizzes or surveys. It's just one way of interacting with users. There are so many others. Playbuzz, we ourselves are offering many others. Other companies are offering, even more. So there's multiple faces to what interactivity looks like.
I'm kind of curious to dive a little bit into the interactivity comment. Do you find certain types of interactive content resonate more with certain generations? Have you done any analysis of the type of content that resonates most for Gen Z versus Boomers, for instance?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, what we see is that interactive content resonates with all generations. It just depends on the different experiences that you're serving them. So for example, one of the experiences that Playbuzz has developed is what we call Convo, which is a way to tell articles, stories, in a text message form. And that's something that we've developed, our product team has come up with after, realizing that this is how people communicate. 90% of our content is now consumed through messages. We're messaging each other in, 17 different apps. Maybe that's just me. And if that's how people are communicating, why not consume your stories that way? So that was something that was very kind of millennial or, Gen Z compatible. And something that, for example, HuffPost, which are one of our publishers that use our platform, are using to communicate very serious political issues to their millennial audience in order to get them to engage and understand complicated messages through a way that is close to how they're used to consuming information. So that was very, tailored to that generation. But we see, the question elements, for example, when you add a question to an article, that's something that we see resonating with, across ages. It wakes people up. It gets them to be part of the content, to think. All of a sudden, I'm not just reading someone's monologue about what they think of something. I'm being asked my opinion or what I think or, what I would do. And that is something that really gets engagement across different ages and age groups that we see really works. And, it's something that we're always looking into, is how to create experiences that really, get the younger audiences involved, but also, we work with so many different publishers that target so many different age groups. We can't forget, both sides of the spectrum. It's a really, really interesting thing to look at.
I think as humans, we all love good stories.
I definitely do.
And, one of the questions that I have for you is, have we seen an evolution from a brand perspective of stories? Meaning, are we shifting from, storytelling to story making? Mm-hmm. And how have you seen that play out at Playbuzz?
I think brands specifically are, storytellers now more than ever. They're they need to produce so much more content. They need to be smarter about it. They can't rely, many brands are now taking creative teams in-house or trying to, be more smart about the way they're creating content or, getting their consumers involved in the content creation and not just relying on, oh, this is what we think will work for our audience, but here's what they want. Here's what they actually are looking for. And this is something that is really core to the way that Playbuzz sees content, because we view storytelling as a dialogue, basically. So I mentioned before, most content that you're reading online or in general is a monologue by a writer that's telling you their opinion about something that, they know a lot about, but you're passively consuming it. It's maybe interesting, maybe it's not, but you're not a part of this equation. And when content is interactive, the consumer becomes a part of the content. They are asked their opinion. Even the fact that they're, I always call it the movement in real life. We usually do this movement of the scroll, but what if we're clicking or we're swiping or like our bodies are actually moving as we're consuming digital content? We're now a part of something. We're engaged. We're alive. We're awake. And I think it's a very similar experience to what brands are trying to do, is saying, we're trying to reach those consumers. If we don't make them a part of the storytelling, it's not going to be as personal to them. And we know that content that is personal, that feels relevant to you, that feels like it really targets you personally, works. And that's, the most basic element of storytelling. And it's something that is really important to us and that brands are starting to adopt more and more.
So talking about personalizing content, GDPR is right around the corner. How are you thinking about that? How are you approaching complying with GDPR?
Sure. So as every global company, it's something that we're dealing with a lot. And I actually find it, a lot of companies are saying this is going to really inhibit our ability to operate, but we see it as an opportunity. Because just like we just said, getting your consumers to say what they want, giving them the choice to say, you know, this is the data that I want to give you, and this, no, please give me back my privacy, will only make content or ads better. Because I don't remember any time where, you know, I was asked what kind of ads I want to be served, or, you know, what's relevant for me. And I'm sure that companies will be able to learn a lot about their users by asking them something that they never did, you know, like, do you want to be part of this or not? What do you give consent to or not? And it could be an opportunity to better engage them, serve them content that they really care about, with information that they feel comfortable with, rather than, you know, giving that creepy feeling of, we know so much about you and we're serving you this ad and how do you know this? You know, it creates a trusting relationship, which will only lead to good things eventually after the chaos ends. Right. Yeah.
You have a plugin for WordPress, and WordPress is known for democratizing publishing. And now with your plugin, you're sort of democratizing interactive content, you know, for everyone. What is it that you guys at Playbuzz love about WordPress? What makes your sort of plugin a wonderful solution for brands and publishers?
Sure. So Playbuzz, as I mentioned, works with thousands of publishers, and WordPress is obviously one of the most popular CMSs. So it was really important for us not to just, you know, our tools to be compliant with WordPress and be able to create Playbuzz content and embed it on your WordPress site, but also to have a plugin that actually enables users of WordPress to create Playbuzz content within their CMS. So it's an integrated experience. They don't need to, you know, go outside of their CMS to create content. They're doing it all within their CMS. And it's a wonderful experience. And a lot of our clients are using our WordPress plugin. We also work with WordPress VIP, and for some of the big publishers we work with. And it really is all about creating that authoring experience for the authors using our platform to tell stories that feels the most natural and the most organic to their workflow and their day-to-day, because eventually that's a lot of what we think about, is how to create authoring experiences that are not just, you know, bells and whistles, add interactivity. No, it needs to be something that consumers want, but it also needs to be something that authors, journalists want to use and create with. And integrating with their work environment is crucial to that. And it's showing wonderful results.
You know, we live in a very polarized world today, probably increasingly so. Do you think it's okay for brands to sit on the sidelines today and actually not take a stand on things, or do you think the exact opposite?
I think the opposite. I think, again, goes back to that discussion of, you know, millennials, Gen Z, what they're expecting. I think today's generation is very socially conscious. They have very strong beliefs about things. They want to be very aware of what's going on around them. And just like they don't want you to, you know, take consent over their privacy and decide for them what kind of information you want to take, they also want to know who you are, what your stand is on things that they care about. They want to have more control over what they support or what they buy, or, you know, is this for leather or vegan, or, you know, if Delta Airlines takes a stand against the NRA, you know, I'm so proud to be a Delta Airlines member that day. It really creates that personal connection with the brand, because it all goes back to, you know, they support what I support, or even if they don't, they have an opinion. It feels more like, you know, an entity that I can identify with, rather than just, you know, someone trying to serve me content that's meaningless to me. So I think it's very important, and it goes back to that opportunity to, again, personalize content and create real dialogues with your consumers. So I think we're seeing more and more brands do that, and that will keep them relevant.
How are you beginning to think about using machine learning systems and AI to help facilitate the creation of content?
So AI is something that we're really, really interested in. Obviously, there's so many opportunities to improve content and advertising through AI, but us specifically, we're really curious about how it can make not only content consumption better, but content creation better. And we had a hackathon at Playbuzz where we encouraged different people in the company to come up with ideas that will, you know, bring Playbuzz to the future and help us develop products that are really relevant to our users. And this, the AI project was the winner of the hackathon, and the concept was to build an AI-based authoring assistive tool that will help journalists make content creation faster and easier. It doesn't mean replacing them, never, but it makes the process of research, for example, easier. So what this winning product had was, you know, when a creator is creating content, they're starting to write about Donald Trump, let's say, and as they're writing, the tool will offer them, you know, photos that are relevant to what they're writing about, or tweets from Trump's Twitter account, or videos, or maybe interactive elements. Let's say they asked a question, it will offer them to replace it with a poll so that people can actually answer the question. So really, you know, AI-based tools to make their creation much more streamlined, and, you know, rather than spend hours just looking for that right tweet, it will automatically pop up for them. But yeah, it's something that we're really interested to see how it can make, again, not just the authoring, but the serving of content better, as, you know, many big companies are doing around the world, like Toutiao in China, for example. I'm sure you've heard of them. You know, they're serving, they're a news aggregator, basically, they're learning so much about their audience that within 24 hours, as they claim, they can serve you the most interesting articles from all the news outlets in China that will be interesting to that specific person. I guess they have less GDPR concerns to deal with at the moment, so it's easier. But yeah, it's and their time spent on their app is, I think, over 70 minutes daily per user. So it shows that, you know, when you're using these systems, you can really make the creation and consumption experience so much better.
So talking about news, you know, fake news, do you think we're close, far off from, you know, sort of good housekeeping, seal of approval for content, for news? Are we close to some sort of verifiable indicator that, you know, this news is in fact?
It's a good question. When will we get to a point where fake news is old news? It will happen one day.
It's as old as
yeah.
time, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's been around forever.
It's true, and but I think people are becoming more conscious of it. And the way that we see it at Playbuzz is fake news. One of the reasons that it's, you know, fake news can spread so easily is because of that fact that people are skimming through content and not really meaningfully reading it. Because when you're skimming through, as I mentioned before, when you're just reading the headline, or you're kind of, okay, I got this, it's much easier to fool you. You're much, you know, it's easier for you to believe something happened when it didn't really. You're not really using your judgment. And we see that engagement, you know, is one solution that can help avoid that, is because if you create your article in an engaging way, and people actually spend, you know, 2-3 minutes of time on it, they won't be as easy to fool. They will think twice before they, you know, argue with their friends over this, or tell everybody that this is happening. So it's something that we see as, you know, obviously it's a much bigger problem, but could help making consumers more aware of what they're reading and how much, you know, how believable it is. Whether or not we can create an actual, you know, verified content standard, I wish. You know, there are all kinds of like Chrome extensions that help you identify if this is fake news or not. I think eventually the consumers have to be smart about it. Even if there will be a standard, companies will understand how to bypass it and still, you know, try to give outrageous stories that are not really true to their readers. The reader has to be smart and aware of what they're reading, and, you know, really understand what the words are saying rather than, again, just scrolling through.
Awesome. Shachar, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.